It's about a month until April Fool's Day, and I think it's time to set myself a little bit of a challenge. A couple of years ago, I was midway through developing my cozy point-and-click adventure game starring retired Sherlock Holmes, The Beekeeper's Picnic. And as an April Fool's joke, I put together a really quick, 5-minute game called the Mycroft Holmes Simulator, where I sort of said to people, actually, you know what, I've decided I'd rather do a game about Sherlock Holmes's lazy brother. It was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that it was real, but it was very silly. And I'd quite like to do something similar again.
It all starts with this, the Arthur Conan Doyle Encyclopedia, which has an entire page about video games, and sure enough, my games are there. However, the thing which attracted my attention is this line here. There's no video games adapted from non-Sherlock Holmes stories written by Arthur Conan Doyle.
Challenge accepted. And I'm going to give myself one weekend to do it. Because I have other stuff to do with my life. So question 1 is, what literary work are we choosing? And I want to go with something that's funny. So I'm kind of ruling out his historical stories. He has one called Sir Nigel, he has one called The White Company. I haven't read them, and I don't think that they're especially funny things to make a video game of. He does have some short stories that I love because of how wacky they are. There's one called An American Tale that he wrote when he was fairly young, where a cowboy gets eaten by a plant. There's one called The Silver Hatchet, where there's this hatchet, and if you hold it, it has a curse where it makes you want to kill the person that you love, and it falls into the hands of these 2 medical students, and they end up you ever seen the Star Trek episode Amok Time? Anyway, I'm kind of ruling those out just because A, I can't think how to make those into a video game, and B, I just feel like they're too obscure. Just way, way, way too obscure. The thing that I think would be funniest to make into a game is this novel he did very near the end of his life called The Land of Mist, which is just his famous character, Professor Challenger. You know, his famous character, Professor Challenger, who we've all heard of, right? Basically discovers that spiritualism is real. That's the whole book. It's not got much of a plot, but I just think that The Land of Mist, the game, would be a very funny title. But friends, I don't know how I would do that. Here's my solution. Not that Professor Challenger story, but there's another Professor Challenger story which I think is still quite wacky, but it's a fun piece of sci-fi and I like it. And it's also a novella, which I think will make it easier to handle, and I can see how to make it into a game. So he wrote this novella called The Poison Belt. Spoilers incoming for The Poison Belt.
Theorizing that a mysterious meteorological phenomenon sweeping across the Earth will destroy the majority of all life, Professor Challenger is called to act. He gathers his friends, Edward Malone, Lord John Roxton, and Professor Summerlee, along with his wife, who I don't think has a name, and they seal themselves together in a room with a limited oxygen supply and await their fate.
You can see how that could be a game, right? That you have to prepare for this event. My other little rule that I'm setting myself is that I don't want it to just be a choose-your-own-adventure book. I think it's going to be text-based. I would like to do some illustrations, but I think I want to add something more to it.
Let the challenge begin.
It's Saturday morning. I've got some tea. I've got a single portion of grapes, which isn't very many, turns out. And I've got a cat here. So I think I'm ready to begin.
I decided for this challenge I'm going to use Twine, which is a great little application. It's free, you can go and get it, which focuses on creating branching narratives. I've used it before for planning out dialogue trees, but I've never really used it for making something which someone else is going to read. You can see it functions a little bit like a flowchart here. I can see an overview of the different kind of paragraphs, sections of my story, and it's going to be entirely text-based. I'm going to be doing a lot of typing. But when I press preview, it looks, well, at the moment it looks pretty bad, but I'm gonna see about making this look better. Yeah, I then spent like a couple of hours trying to work out how to make it look prettier, which in hindsight probably wasn't the best use of that time. Like, I should have concentrated more on creating content rather than make it look pretty. But look, it now has like kind of nice fonts, and look, when I hover over buttons they glow and stuff. So I said I wanted to be able to like customize your character. Well, in the Harlow test game, which is all about ducks, it actually has a script that lets you do that. So I've just copied and pasted it, and I just think we need to adjust this so that it's like Arthur Conan Doyle centric. So it's got swiftness, dexterity, constitution, flight, perceptiveness, and unflappability. Let me try and think of some Arthur Conan Doyle-esque things I can change this to. Spiritualism. Cowboyness. This was the end result, and I mean, it works beautifully. I can add and remove points here for all of these various attributes. However, I've been thinking long and hard about this, and I'm not sure that what this game is going to end up being with the time that I have and what I have in mind. I don't think it's going to be like running checks against these numbers. I don't think it's going to be like the sort of Fallout method where I'm sort of trying to collect stats in order to pass checks. I think it's going to be more like Pentiment, where you choose the background and skills of your character, and that influences like dialogue choices and some of the sort of branches you can go down. So this is cool. I like the idea, but I'm going to come back, I'm going to get some lunch, and then I'm going to come back and see if I can just reimagine this to be maybe a little bit more black and white. Like, either you have medicine skills or you don't.
So I've been out, I've had something to eat, I've had a walk, enjoyed the fresh air, because even when I'm on a time crunch, I look after myself, especially when the internet's watching. And for the afternoon, I've got a bottle of water and a small quantity of cocoa powder dusted almonds. Very nice, look at that. Just because sometimes I forget to eat and drink when I get focused.
This is what I came up with as an alternative to that big numerical stat-based screen. So it's much more narrative, it's all kind of integrated, but we have this line saying we're a correspondent for the Daily Gazette, primarily writing about our specialist subject, and then we have a choice: science, crime, or medicine. And I'm hoping that these will affect dialogue and also maybe some branches. And what I really love, and it took me a little while to figure out how to do this, the text actually changes live depending on what I choose. So a player could kind of go through and read all of them and make their mind up based on that. They also have like a hobby as well, or like a special interest, which is separate from their profession, which is either America, spiritualism, or sports.
I think it is now just a case of actually writing this thing, actually knuckling down and writing the game.
I did this wonderful time-lapse of me working, then forgot to switch that function off on the camera when I came to do another update later. But long story short, I worked through to 10 o'clock, and here's the lay of the land at the end of day 1. So this is the map, I guess, of what's going on in the game. It does get to this point here where it's become quite linear, but I'm hoping I can expand that out a little bit. Also, like, really early on, it's fully written, and I think I sort of get to about this point and it's just notes rather than full paragraphs. Case in point, this whatever card I've got selected just says, "Don't survive, fall unconscious together." So, I have a fair amount of writing to do tomorrow. My task for Sunday morning was not just to write narrative things, but also to test some of the programming that I tried to do the previous day. I'm really having trouble with this part of the game, which is you have to read a telegram, a newspaper, and a letter. Once you've read all of them, then I want you to be able to move on. So I've got this sort of text here, which is saying, If you've read the telegram and you've read the letter, then you have the ability to move on. If you don't, then you don't. You just get presented with the other 2 documents. And it isn't working. So we're here, we're having our breakfast, we read the telegram. Oh no. Whenever I ran into a problem like this, I kind of had 2 ways of solving it. Firstly, I could look at that example game and see if I could work out what was different between my game and that game. I also found that because Twine just has such an enthusiastic community, someone somewhere will have asked the same question. There are also manuals for Twine, which spell things out a bit more directly. I think I found looking at the example game a bit more helpful than looking at the manual, but there were some times that the manual got me out of a fix. For example, with that problem that I just showed you, it was because I wasn't declaring my variables at the beginning of the game. I had to let the game know there's this variable, it begins the game as false, so that it can later then call on it and make it true. I went for a little walk at lunchtime because it was really gorgeous and sunny. And then in the afternoon, I felt like taking a break from the writing and the coding to do a little bit of artwork. Oh, that wasn't a bad circle. That's pretty good. Then we have, so Professor Challenger here, presiding over the world, but like, you know, poison. And then we also have like, Sir Arthur. It's fine. We can fit his name on there. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's game. Something like that, right? That'll work. Now I know what you're thinking. What planet is that? I don't know. Oh wait, this is British. Like, the UK should just be gigantic against all reason and geography. Oh, his hair needs to be darker so it shows up. Oh, there we go. That's looking good. Yeah. Oh, he's so good. He's so good, though. It says he wears a lounge suit. Now, I don't quite know what a lounge suit is, but he's so big. Oh, look at his shoulders. He's so chunky. He's such a chunky man. Oh, he's so good. I love him so much. Oh, now it just looks like it's in a pea pod. He's a little pea. In the end, I did a whole set of images as quickly as I could in this flat retro style, which I love. It was just so quick to do, but I think it looks really good. And it's just going to break up the text a little bit.
Right, well, my 48 hours are up. And I'm so pleased with what I've made. I started off not particularly knowing how to make a game in Twine. I was able to use the example game with the ducks as my kind of template, pinch some code, go online and find example CSS people have done for how to make it look pretty and adapt that. And I've even added some illustrations, and I've just had a go at making an itch page just to see what it looks like. So am I finished? Did I do it in 48 hours? I think I have something which is complete in the sense that there's nothing obviously missing from it. I think I would like to keep working at it for a little bit because I think from here is the most fun bit, which is adding more branches and more impact that those hobbies and professions that you can pick at the beginning will have later on. For example, I would like to go back and make it so if you picked the interest in America, all your dialogue changes to be like darn tootin'. I think that would be hilarious. So yeah, it's been really fun. I think I encourage anyone to have a little kind of challenge to yourself to make something in a limited amount of time because it's enormous fun. I think it's also really good to like take care of yourself as well. Like I went on a nice walk today by the canal and took lots of breaks. So happy April Fool's Day. I have fooled you by making an entire game that is actually real. I am actually making genuinely a game at the moment called The Museum of Everything. It's very early days, but I'm working my way towards a vertical slice of it at the moment, which I hope to release maybe in 2 or 3 months. That would be quite cool. If you'd like to follow my progress, I have a newsletter and a Discord, and you can probably find links to those in the description of this somewhere. I will make sure there are links around. But thank you very much for watching. Boop.